went in the door, and we searched all around on the front floor, wasn't nobody. And we went up to the second floor. We were searching around like that, and I peeped around the corner, and there was an old man standing in a corner tight and had a cane in his hand. And he was smiling real big at us, like, don't shoot me, you know. We got in front of him, and I reached out with my bayonet and put it behind that cane and knocked it out of that old man's hand. And he held on to the handle, and the rest of it come off of a sword that was 3 feet long. As soon as I yanked that thing off, old Larry went, pow, and that guy just slid down on the floor.
You are about to embark upon the great crusade
to meet this mounting aggression.
And make no mistake about it, good will prevail.
My name's Johnny M. Johnson, sergeant in the Marine Corps. When we got to Korea, we were always going at the same time into battle, but we got off the ship at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we could see the flash from the guns from the ship. We filed out off of the ship, got in trucks, and headed toward those flashes. In 45 minutes, I was fighting. And the enemy was used to coming south, south, south and taking everything, but they hadn't fought any Marines. And when we started, we never stopped moving forward. There was no foxholes ever. It's better to keep going forward, because if the enemy finds out you're not going to stop, and the ones that the enemy that was captured, every one of them told us, them Marines, or them guys that's got them leggings on, they don't know when to stop. And that's the way the Marine fights. But the first guy I saw killed in Korea was in a tank rolling in the middle of the floor about 5 miles an hour, and the Marines were marching on each side, staggered like 15 feet apart, so if a weapon hit there, it wouldn't kill but 1 or 2 guys. But this Jeep was going up the middle before we ever got into the fight, and I had a good friend driving it and a captain that I knew was riding with him. And they run over a tank mine, and that Jeep went straight up in the air and turned over and come back down and hit right on top. And I knew they were both dead when it was a big explosion fixed for a tank. Anyway, we just kept walking on the side, and next we come to a big long curve, but it wasn't curved too steep for a dirt road, and another Jeep and another man in the middle of the road, and they went around the curve first, and when they got halfway, a 37 millimeter cannon hit the windshield, killed both of them. And I thought, man, this place is getting dangerous right now. We kept moving up, and the enemy found out we wasn't going to stop, and they started running backwards. And we never stopped running them backwards as long as we was there. Kept moving and kept moving. Well, we got to one little spot that had like maybe 30 or 40 trees there, and there was a bunch of enemy in them trees. And that would have got some people killed if we went after them. But our lieutenant was smart. All our officers were from the Second World War, and they were all real smart about war. My Lieutenant Brown called back to the ship that was carrying all the airplanes. They had 8 Marine Corps Corsairs on this ship, he called. 4 of them come out at a time, and when they finished fighting, then 4 more comes. And they shot 50 caliber first, then they'd go up and another guy would come behind and shoot 50 caliber, and they 4 of them would do that, and then the first one would go back again and he'd shoot his rockets. And then they'd go around again, all 4 of them. And then after they shot all their rockets, they would drop napalm bombs. Napalm bombs would scare anybody to death, enemy or anyone. I mean, it's fire, and if it gets on you, you can't get it off. It'd be like trying to wipe syrup off your arm. And them planes killed everybody in that bunch of trees. We didn't have to go in there at all. So after that, we kept moving up. We moved on to a river. There was a hill in front of the river, and we fought up the hill and got on top, and we got a call from MacArthur's right-hand man. That guy told us to come back down the hill and get in Army trucks and go 10 miles to the left flank and help the Army get caught up. They was getting too far behind. So we did that. We moved back down the hill from the top and got in 3 trucks and went over about 10 miles where the Army was, and we helped them fight to the top of the hill. And then we come back and got in 3 trucks and moved over to this hill where we'd already taken, and we had to take it again. And MacArthur had got the smartest thing in his mind that he ever had. He wanted to go to Inchon, and that would cut across the country at like mid spot. And all the people south of that wouldn't be able to get no ammunition or guns or food or clothes or anything else, and that would shut them off. So that's what we did. We went back a little ways and got on a ship. Ship went around the corner where Pusan is, went around the bottom, went up the other side, and 50 ships went into Inchon like that, and they didn't expect it from nothing. I mean, it was a complete surprise. And my company had to go over a wall. That wall was about 14 feet high, and when I went in, I was in the first wave. And when I went in, the Navy guy driving that little boat, there was about 15 of us on that little boat, and he just yelled, "You up front, hold that ladder, hook it on the top of that wall and hold it real tight against the wall, because the boat will be shaking. The water would be moving it around, and they can't get on the ladder and go." So I got in front and I held that ladder as tight as I could against the wall, and he had the motor running against the wall to hold the boat against it. And I hold that, and they went up that ladder and went over that wall, and I thought, man, there'll be a pile of Marines on the other side, because they're carrying ammunition, and there's the flamethrowers have got them things on their back, and they're heavy stuff, and they're going to fall and pile up right on the other side. And I dreaded going up that ladder, but I had to wait till last and then push it back in the boat, and then they'd go back to get second flight. Well, when it come time for me to go up, I went up that ladder and stepped over that wall, and it was about 1.5 feet to ground. Everybody had done been fighting when I got up there. There was 2 machine guns, one on each side, and they had us in a crossfire, and they right off the bat, they hit our platoon sergeant in the neck, and they put him in one of the boats going back to get more men. I ran to the lieutenant and said, "What do you want me to do?" And we had to cross a railroad, and there was a single car, black, it was a tank car, black tank car sitting on the rails by itself. And the lieutenant said, go up there about halfway and shoot that tank, because if it's loaded with some kind of real explosive, it'll kill the whole platoon when we get up on a railroad. So he should fire a shot through that thing and see what happens. So I crawled up about halfway and fired a shot, and it went through that tanker and just made about a foot hole through both sides, went right through the tanker. And while all this was happening, there was a church on the other side of the railroad that had a bell tower. And then it was a sniper in that bell tower. And I hollered back at the lieutenant, but I got way ahead there and I could see that guy was shooting out of that bell tower, and I hollered back, "Lieutenant Brown, there's a sniper in that bell tower." Well, he had a man with a radio right beside him, and he picked up the phone, called back to them ships, told them there was a sniper in that bell tower, and he fired one shot, and that bell tower went up in the air. It was white boards flying that went probably 50 feet high from that shot. And I looked, and I tried to see that sniper was in there, but I never did see him. But the boards with wood was just flying around and fell. And by that time, the enemy had just about all been killed, because the town was so surprised to see us. MacArthur, he was really good on that thing. They knew we was going to take Seoul, and that was next. So they run into Seoul and got hid, and they went down in the roads where there was them metal caps on the road. They pull them up and go down in there and then put the cap back on. And when we got to Seoul, that's what we had to fight. We would run the ones in front of us off, and the guys would come up them holes and shoot from behind. And they killed and wounded a few like that, but it didn't take us long. We never stopped moving. I got to the Capitol myself, and they had a little wall about 2 feet off the ground, and it was about a foot thick, concrete wall that size, went all the way around the capital of Seoul. And I crawled up against that thing and crawled all the way past it, past the Capitol. And when I got to the back, there was a flagpole about 100 feet high from the grass. It was right in the grass in the back. And it still had the North Korean flag flying. And I thought, man, if I go over there and get that flag down, that'll be the best thing that I ever got out of this war. So I thought about jumping up and running over there and getting that flag. And then I thought, if I go over there and touch that flag, everybody in town's going to shoot at me. So it ain't worth it. So I kept crawling till I got to the next street that ran behind the Capitol. There was 4 enemy people laying in the road right in front of me, and they were all burning. Somebody had hit them with a flamethrower. They had shot them with a flamethrower, and they was laying in the road, and there was flames coming up like 6 or 8 inches off their body, every one of them guys. And I had to go around them. I got up and ran around them across the road, and the lieutenant was there. And he said, "You know, Larry, go in that building." The first building was 3-story. He said, "Go in and clear that house, that building." So me and old Larry went in the door, and we searched all around on the front floor, wasn't nobody. And we went up to the 2nd floor, and we searched just like you see on TV. You peep around the corner and ready to fire if anybody's in there, and there was nobody. And on the 2nd floor, we was searching around like that, and I peeped around the corner, and there was an old man standing in a corner tight and had a cane in his hand. And he was smiling real big at us, like, "Don't shoot me," you know. And we got in front of him, and I had a well, we always put bayonets on if we was in a town or around a lot of houses. So I had my bayonet on the front, and I reached out with my bayonet and put it behind that cane and knocked it out of that old man's hand, and he held on to the handle, and the rest of it come off of a sword that was 3 feet long. And if we had turned our backs to him, I probably wouldn't be here. And as soon as I yanked that thing off, old Larry went, pow, and that guy just slid down on the floor. But that was the only one in the house. We went up and looked at the third floor, wasn't nothing there. We run back to where the lieutenant was, and we kept fighting through the town. And the next thing we come to was the railroad that supplied the city. And they had boxcars out on the railroad, and them boxcars, the enemy went in them, trying to hide, shut the door, and get in them boxcars. And some of them was running, and when you got past the rails, there was a little hill there, and they was running up a hill. And again, the Marine Corsairs come in and started killing them that was on the hill, but we had to go through and clean them out of them boxcars. And I'd open them, let somebody else look, and if there's any in there, they just shoot them. We'd go to the next one. And I'd open the door real fast, and they would look in and shoot 3 or 4. And we got a lot of enemy right there on that railroad. And when we got out of that, we started running into some smooth, real pretty territory, and we come to the University of Seoul. And we had fought all day when we got to that point, and the major said, we're too tight to go any farther. Everybody needs a rest, so we're going to stay at the university. And there wasn't nobody there. They had all run out of there. So it had good grass, and the guys started looking for grassy places where they could lay down. Well, one of the big buildings there was about 4 stories. I went and opened the door and looked in, and there was an office right beside the door. Had a big plush chair sitting there for somebody that come in to talk, and they had a office chair sitting in front of the desk. I got in that big chair, and it felt so good, I just stayed right there all night. And the next morning, when everybody started moving, I got out there, and we went farther up. And the farther we went, the cooler it got. And we went by the Chosin Reservoir, and we took a bath right in that water. And it was a little chilly, but it wasn't ice or nothing. It hadn't got really cold there. But we kept going and kept going, and my unit went all the way up to the top of that hill to stay up there and watch and see if I could see any Chinese, and they were trying to get across the Yellow River and fight with us. But MacArthur said, they're not going to fight. They're not going to come across the river. Chinese don't want to get in no fight with Americans. At that time, there was 120,000 Chinese north of us and south of us at night was sneaking across that river and surrounding us. 120,000. That was when the war was first starting, really, really getting bad. The Chinese surrounded us, and then they informed us. They told our senior general that we didn't have a chance because they was ahead of us 10-1, and they wasn't going to take any prisoners. Everybody's going to get killed. So the major, he had a little tent down at the foot of that hill where we was at, and the major called all the sergeants in and told them, go out and tell your men that we're going to die today, everybody. So everybody was about to cry and didn't know what to say, and it was just misery. And he said, we got 10 to 1 all around us, and there ain't no way we can get out because they've got all the roads and bridges and everything covered. So this general, he sent the man to the Toctong Pass, and he knew that would be a big fighting place, so he sent him there and told him to hold that open till the rest of us got through. Well, that was about, probably 15 or 20 miles away, but that was the only way we had to get out. And we could stay on the road if you could fight them off. And we had 3 trucks and 2 or 3 Jeeps, and that was it. Everybody had to walk. The dead and the wounded got on the trucks. One of my buddies got killed, and me and another buddy put his body in a sack, a sleeping sack, and we wadded the thing together, and we both pulled it, dragged him. And we dragged him probably for 3 miles, and then we decided we was going to have to get him on that truck. We couldn't go no further. So we took him up to one of them trucks, and we throwed him right on top of everybody else. And we was having guys who were going up the side of the hills to keep them off the road, but we got down to Coterie, and we got a little break there. We stayed there one night and had guys fight. You take turnabout. The platoons would take turnabout fighting them off, and everybody else would rest. And next morning, we hit the road again, everybody. But way back here at headquarters, General Smith got a hold of Ray Davis and told him to get his group, his people, straight through the Chinese. They had all kinds of men over here, and they told Davis, take your men single line right through the Chinese. And that night it started snowing real hard. You couldn't hardly see anything from your hand. Davis lined them men up, told them, you can't smoke, you can't talk, you can't step on no sticks or anything. We've got to go without making any sound. And that snow was coming down real fast and heavy. And they walked right through probably 1 or 2 divisions of Chinese, and they could hear them talk. When they could hear them talking, they'd kind of curve around them a little bit, keep on going, and the Chinese always thought that was another Chinese outfit moving. I mean, they couldn't see them in that snow, so they thought that was Chinese. And he went right through them to a mountain, and they went up on the mountain, and there's one path up there right on top of the mountain. He went down that path for 10 miles. And when he got down here to where the Chinese was trying to take over that Toctong Pass, he come in behind them. And man, he wiped them out. And him and Barker together, they kept that thing open till the whole 1st Marine Division got through. And I was one of them. And I was walking, I was froze up to here, couldn't feel nothing. I was froze up to here, my feet and hands and everything. And when 1st Division got through, they fell in behind us. And we went all the way downhill to where Chester Puller had his division. They hadn't went anywhere from where they landed. And we went in singing the Marine Corps hymn. Our lieutenant in the 2nd platoon, he started singing it, and everybody joined in, and we marched 4 abreast into that division down there, and then, of course, that helped us get to the ocean, and the ships was out there waiting on us to get out. Half of us didn't get there, and I made it out, and here I am, 93, and I made it.